I put all my money I put into opening this first studio. And as I give advice to entrepreneurs, I always tell them, you don't need a little skin in the game. You need like all of your skin in the game, because you need to be on the other side of thinking, if this doesn't work out, I'm screwed. And I believe so much in this idea. I'm willing to put so much of my reputation and my money into it that like you have no choice but for it to work out. And that was really important for the first studio and its success. I mean, it was nonstop working on it, right? So I opened the first studio in November of 2013. Didn't know anything about construction or real estate or any of those things, right? I knew fitness, and I knew I was a trusted source in fitness. So I didn't let those things stop me. You have to surround yourself with people who become trusted advisors in those areas where you are nascent and you don't know enough yet. And yeah, the first studio opened November 2013. And we were waitlisted from pretty much day one. It was really tremendous to see. And with a lot of this stuff, there's always a little bit of luck involved. And we got amazingly lucky with the timing. We were on the cusp of the boutique fitness boom. There was no Soul, Fly, Orange Theory, Rumble, any of that stuff in DC. We were really one of the first concepts, and you could tell the market was ready for it. So listen, same thing, Jay, you know, I love to build and scale also. And when I opened my first studio, it's funny, everybody always asks me like, oh my goodness, did you ever think that you would have so many? And I'm like, yes. Like they want you to say no, you know, they want you to be like, I have no idea how this happened. And I'm like, yeah, that was the plan from the beginning. I knew that this would be a concept that could grow across the country and soon internationally when we get into the next couple of years here. But yeah, the second studio was open on month 4, the third was month 6, and then it was just, you know, continued to grow. And we didn't spend a dime on marketing for the first 24 studios, which was pretty amazing. It was all word of mouth.
Hey, it's a new world, gotta adapt to it. Innovation, information, more than the average. Rushing, please ignore the interruptions, cause this is digital discussions.
Our guest for today, Anne Mahlum, a dear friend of mine, a client, and an absolute inspiration to me, which is why I'm super excited to have her join us and join the group here. So Anne has inspired me in so many different ways, both in business and in life. So I just wanted to introduce you guys to her, and we're going to do this the same way that we typically do. We're going to have Anne, you know, talk a little bit about what she does and her background, and then we're going to open it up and just have Q&A, and I want you guys to have the opportunity to have the access to Anne because, like I said, she's been an amazing inspiration to me, and I think you'll find that to be the same as well. So, Anne, welcome. So, Anne, tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you. I was going to open it up, but I would prefer that you tell us about yourself for obvious reasons.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, when people ask you what you do, I think we've all sort of sat back and say, what is it that I do and how do I define myself? And, you know, right now I am running SOLIDCORE, but I feel like who I am as a person is I build branded communal experiences around fitness. And I've been fortunate to do that twice in my life, entrepreneurial speaking, with my nonprofit that I'd started in 2007, Back on My Feet, which uses running as a vehicle to change the way those experiencing homelessness see themselves so that they can move on to have a more self-sufficient lifestyle. Was a really important factor of my life. Running was my salvation when I was a teenager, going through some tough family stuff as my dad was battling an addiction a gambling addiction. It was his third addiction in his life, drugs, alcohol, and then gambling. And that ended up being the tipping point for my parents' marriage. So really challenging time, and fitness really helped me get through that. And then 10 years later, connecting with some guys at a homeless shelter and realizing that running doesn't have to discriminate, and I don't have to use running just to help me, that it's helped me feel stronger and more confident and invincible at times. And that
what I really love the most about that, well, there's a lot of things I love about that story, but I want you to actually talk about how you had accepted a corporate job, right? But would run every morning past this homeless shelter and felt like you were almost running away from them. And just talk a little bit about that, because I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, I think we're all at some point in our lives in this deep relationship with asking our questions of, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? Why am I here? And feeling like you get to a point that someone just tell me what it is and I'll do it. And I felt I was looking underneath all the proverbial rocks out there, and I knew I was supposed to do something to help people, to build something. And it was like a 2-year lonely process. And usually how these things work is the answer is, right under your feet. And for me, that was a literal statement, that running by these guys and realizing the connection that I had in a strange way to them, and then to my father, and realizing I could take all of this pain and turn it into some goodness. And at first, it was just this idea and a running club and a way for me to give back and connect. But after a few weeks, I just was convinced that it could actually be a turning point and a pivotal moment in a lot of these individuals' lives. And I could make it a fully fledged nonprofit that at the end of a program would result in a job and a home for our members. And, for anybody out there has ever had a crazy idea or an entrepreneurial spirit and constantly hear from people that, that's never going to work, or what are you thinking? That's irresponsible. Frankly, I have 2 stories where it's worked out very well in my favor of not listening to the noise. So yeah, I walked away from a corporate job that I was supposed to start, never even made it my first day. And was like, I got to figure this out, because when you go through the worst case scenarios in your head, the worst case scenario was, you know what, it doesn't work out and I can deal with that. I might have a little bit of a bruised ego for a while, but you know what, I'll be able to navigate and figure out what to do next if that's the case. So yeah.
It's very, by the way, it's great timing, because I don't know if you're aware, but today apparently is National Entrepreneurs Day.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I was tagged in a post on the Digital Army. And Doug, thank you for commenting. I think you're the only person who did. But and you're
not all of us, Jay, spend our whole days on Instagram. Some of us have work to do.
Some people have to work.
Yeah, totally.
So when you reached out to the homeless shelter and told them your plan and what you wanted to do, how was that received?
The same sort of doubts everybody else had around it. That, the actual words that came out of the director of this shelter's mouth was, these homeless guys aren't going to be interested in running. And you could just, even the guy who was there to help them was defining them by their homelessness. It's like, oh, if you're homeless, you're this way. And I was sort of like, I'm not going to make any more work for anybody else. Running has helped me in my life. I just want to share it. But it took a good amount of convincing. And
it's not surprising that, it sounds like they would probably get a phone call from you and be like, I think this girl's a little crazy. She wants, right? But when you gave the homeless people opportunity, but you gave them very strict guidelines, right? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, Jay, I will take the opportunity to correct for anybody on the phone, even saying the word homeless person, you're putting them in this box. So we have learned, and just as we've learned about new language, educating folks that it's individuals experiencing homelessness, because it's not their whole definition. So just a little tip from me to you. But yeah, it's now I forgot your question as I was giving you a lesson. What was your question?
So obviously a lot of people would think that it's probably a foregone conclusion that they're not going to want to do this or be successful at it. And I know you put some pretty strict parameters in so they had to hold themselves accountable.
Yeah, but it wasn't for the sake of thinking that like, oh, these guys are homeless, so they need whatever. Everybody needs to, when they're going to do something just like this challenge, you got to create guidelines and rules and commitments and make it so it's not like you can fudge over here. Oh, this doesn't matter. One of the initial conversations that I had when I walked into the shelter with these guys, and there was 9 original members, here I am, an absolute stranger, right? A white woman from North Dakota looking at 8 African-American males. And, you know, they're like, what is going on? And here I am expecting pure excellence from them, knowing that they're capable of showing up 3 days a week at 6 a.m. You can be on time. You're going to, you know, show up with a positive attitude, and you're going to treat others with respect and kindness and dignity. And if you can't do that, you can't be a part of the team. And like, we honored those rules. I think people screw up there a lot too, where they make commitments or they make standards. It's one of my favorite words, of having standards for yourself, your team, your people. And then they compromise those standards. And that's when culture goes to shit. That's when your identity, your reputation goes to shit, because you're compromising all the time. And we just didn't compromise. There were repercussions that if you weren't on time and you weren't showing up with a positive attitude and respecting each other, that we weren't going to allow that.
Excellent. And before we transition into SOLIDCORE, what did you find happening over time? I know you have some amazing stories with some individuals.
Yeah, listen, I do, and you can go watch a couple TED Talks if you're interested in more of this story, because there's a lot to be said about it. But what was pretty evident is how the first few weeks of running with these guys, so I got to know really well. I spent a ton of time with them, and you start to realize as a human that everybody wants the same thing, including everybody on this call. We want to be appreciated, cared for, noticed, loved, respected. That is how we navigate relationships, jobs, friendships. We look for those environments where we are given those opportunities and those emotions and feel that from other people. And it was pretty evident that these individuals didn't have a whole lot of that in their lives, and that this community that we were building did that. It was recognition and celebration of the hard work and discipline. At the end of each run, everybody's miles got tracked on a big poster board with their name next to it. One of the things this is the third time I've said this week in calls like this, is the most important word in any language to anyone is their own name, right? So when you're in conversations and meeting people for the first time, say their name. Jay, it's really nice to see you. It personalizes everything, which is frankly why when you come to a SOLIDCORE class, you hear your name 10 plus times when you're on Svetlana, because we want you to know that we see you, we appreciate you, and we recognize, you know, the hard work that you're doing. So it was little things like that, Jay, that realized, oh my God, these guys don't have an environment like this. They're never going to change their life if they don't start getting in a positive environment with people who believe in them, that they can learn to believe in themselves, and then they can start to take the next step to try to find a more self-sufficient lifestyle.
That's amazing. And I think that, you know, that is very similar in business to your point earlier about holding people accountable and things of that nature. So let's talk a little bit about SOLIDCORE. So many, many years ago at this point, you have a workout that changes your life and you decide, hey, I think I can do this better than what other people are doing out there. And that was your initial idea behind creating the concept. Maybe you want to give a little bit more color than that, but
yeah,
that's the 30-second background on your idea.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the moment and talk about, for those of you out there who are either an entrepreneur or have had a couple of things, you know, we all sort of look for our purpose and we look for like what that thing is. And I thought I had found it with Back on My Feet. I mean, for goodness sakes, I built a multi-million-dollar nonprofit nationally out of my childhood pain. I mean, like, life doesn't become more rewarding than that. But there was a point when it was like, okay, it's time for the next thing. And so it was a real lesson for me of like, there's no such thing as finding your purpose. You find your purpose for a period of time. And if you're pushing yourself and really growing as a human, there will be a time to move on from that chapter and go on to the next thing. And that's what happened with Back on My Feet. It took me 6 months to figure it out. But yeah, I was like, it's time for me to go build something else. I don't know what it is yet, but like, I can feel it. And being the workout junkie that I was, and there was some unhealthy relationship with fitness and food for a long time in my life too. And that's a whole other Zoom call. But when I was in California for work, I walked by this studio called Studio MDR. And I was like, what are those machines? And like, it just kind of looked like this very cool, like a vibey place. And I'm like, oh, I'll do a little fun LA workout while I'm here. No problem. So went in there with tons of hubris. And I mean, first few minutes, I was like, I don't know if I can do this workout. It was so humbling and so challenging in a way that I didn't know you could work out this way. I didn't know you could move your body so slowly and safely and feel the intense burn in the same, workout. It was like blowing my mind. And then the next day I'm sore in my abs, my obliques, my arms, my legs. I'm like, this is crazy. What is this thing? So I started doing Pilates back in New York.
Yep.
And then I started doing the numbers on the business. And I'm like, this is an incredible business model, but there's no community here. And there was no authenticity. There was no rawness. It felt a little elitist, if I'm being honest, and to each their own with whatever brand they want. But I just felt that there was an opportunity here for another branded experience around fitness that was personally impacting me in such a positive way. And I wanted to share that with people. I wanted to build a cool brand. And I wanted to try my hand at a for-profit space. So
I think this is a good kind of learning experience, time to talk a little bit about how, you're a runner, right? You've run a marathon on every continent in the world, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so it was the last one,
Mm-hmm.
what, about 2 years ago now? Maybe?
Yeah, year and a half.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel proud just being able to say that I know you. So,
You need to get more friends.
What's that?
You need to get more friends.
Or less friends, just stick around you for spend more time with you. But what's really cool about your story, about your and I'll go back a little bit and touch on your relationship with working out and with food, because you and I, very early on, years ago when we met, you talked about how we're pre-programmed to believe that we should just eat less and attach ourselves to a cardio machine. And when I started doing SOLIDCORE with you, this, it like changed everything about me, where the same thing happened, where I was sore in places I didn't even know existed. I mean, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had never tried a workout even similar, like in nature at all. Everything was typically, the running, the HIIT classes, the basic, the obvious stuff that men would consider to be athletic. And the many, many classes that I've now taken years later, I've watched the biggest, most buff men cry in a SOLIDCORE class. And I think it's so interesting how, people and everything else, evolve. And I've grown so much, both in fitness and, in general, I'll say, as a result of those experiences. And when obviously, based on my experience, helping concepts scale, when I met you and we discussed your strategy and plans to grow SOLIDCORE, I thought you were nuts, and I didn't know if we would be able to hit the numbers that you had in mind. But I told you I'd die trying, and we've done a pretty good job since that day. So talk a little bit about building the first studio, and then, the process of scaling a business.
Yeah. So listen, the first studio, I put all my money I put into opening this first studio. And as I give advice to entrepreneurs, I always tell them, you don't need a little skin in the game. You need like all of your skin in the game, because you need to be on the other side of thinking, if this doesn't work out, I'm screwed. And I believe so much in this idea. I'm willing to put so much of my reputation and my money into it that like you have no choice but for it to work out. And that was really important for the first studio and its success. I mean, it was nonstop working on it, right? So I opened the first studio in November of 2013. Didn't know anything about construction or real estate or any of those things, right? I knew fitness, and I knew I was a trusted source in fitness. So I didn't let those things stop me. You have to surround yourself with people who become trusted advisors in those areas where you are nascent and you don't know enough yet. And yeah, the first studio opened November 2013. And we were waitlisted from pretty much day one. It was really tremendous to see. And with a lot of this stuff, there's always a little bit of luck involved. And we got amazingly lucky with the timing. We were on the cusp of the boutique fitness boom. There was no Soul, Fly, Orange Theory, Rumble, any of that stuff in DC. We were really one of the first concepts, and you could tell the market was ready for it. So listen, same thing, Jay, you know, I love to build and scale also. And when I opened my first studio, it's funny, everybody always asks me like, oh my goodness, did you ever think that you would have so many? And I'm like, yes. Like they want you to say no, you know, they want you to be like, I have no idea how this happened. And I'm like, yeah, that was the plan from the beginning. I knew that this would be a concept that could grow across the country and soon internationally when we get into the next couple of years here. But yeah, the second studio was open on month 4. The third was month 6. And then it was just, you know, continued to grow. And we didn't spend a dime on marketing for the first 24 studios, which was pretty amazing. It was all word of mouth.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny to hear you say that because it's so you know, and we know each other really well. And you know, I have the benefit of speaking to a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business people. But what's so unique about you, Anne, is that you have a way of not only seeing into the future and actually doing the hard work to achieve what your vision is for the future, which is really what it is, right? I mean, ultimately, you could say that you want to have 100, you know, studio business in a certain amount of time, but you know, if you're not basically creating a strategy to get to that place, and again, building the right team to put the people around you to make that possible. And in a lot of ways, like not taking no for an answer, you know, which that's something that's very unique about you, Anne, because I've said to you, you know, early on, we're not gonna be able to get that. We can't, you know, it's not, you know, in this market, that's not customary. In that it's not, right. And you're pushing and willingness to get on every call and make sure that you're making progress on a negotiation for a deal, and really involved in everything, which goes back to your first studio. Yeah, you didn't know how to do construction, but you got pallet wood and started nailing it up yourself with a 6-pack of beer or whatever it was. You were willing to do it yourself, right? So it wasn't, and that is a major differentiator between a successful entrepreneur, business owner versus somebody who thinks it's easier to do than it actually is. Like there's self-awareness in there too. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes at the same time.
Yeah, and there's different phases of your company, and having done this twice now, I can tell you that so many people get stuck in the beginning because they think in their heads and they start to lay out the plan from A to Z when they haven't even done A yet. And then they get to Z and it's like, oh my God, that's too hard. Or they get to a point where they're like, well, I don't know anything about that, so I can't do this. And that is where most ideas fail and don't go anywhere, because someone can't figure out how to execute A, B, and C. And once you get to A, B, and C, those 3 steps will define D, E, and F, or 4, 5, 6, whatever, if you prefer numbers or letters. But too many people do that. And you have to, like, the first thing was get the first studio open, see how this goes, start to talk about the next studio, let my broker know, as you know, Jayson, back then, listen, I want you to start looking for a second space. Where should that be? Whatever. But it wasn't like, I need you to get the next 10 open, you know, by whatever. It was doing this and being committed to the next step, to the next step, and to the next step. And I think that that's a really, really important lesson. And Jay, as you mentioned in the beginning, yeah, man, I was coaching 20 plus classes a week. I was the studio manager. I was the client relations manager. I was the finance person, all of that stuff, right? But I wouldn't be sitting here with 70 plus studios if I was still doing all of those things. So you have to learn when to graduate and say, you know what? I'm not the best at this. I need to hire somebody who's better than this. Trust them, give them the agency to do their job, and me being able to lead them because I've done a little bit of it, and you know, I can give that guidance. But that's how you grow and scale. It's knowing when to say, okay, I don't need to be involved in that anymore. I mean, shit, last year, you know, Brian, I'd be like, what's going on with the leases? And he'd be like, oh, we signed a lease in Seattle. And I'm like, we did? You know, it's like, that's amazing to think when you get to that point that you've built such an incredible team that they're doing things in big ways without you being involved.
Absolutely. And you know what, it's interesting also to think about some very unique things that you did with SOLIDCORE. You know, it was the first time I'd ever seen a fitness studio with a coach that was also working the front desk. You know, a lot of times you've done it in a way where you didn't add unnecessary costs. Like when you talk about it was very thoughtful how you approached everything from a money standpoint, right? Like a lot of other companies go into adding as many bells and whistles as possible. And, oh, no big deal. Even if we pay $75 a foot in rent, you know, we're going to do enough business to pay that rent. You know, oh, a shower is going to be a better experience. People are going to have the option to use that shower. You know, I think a lot of people in the fitness space would have said you're insane to, you know, go into New York City with a fitness concept that doesn't have showers. And you and I both know exactly what other, you know, difficulties and red flags happen the minute that you need to add a shower in New York City or other markets. Not to harp on that, but again, it's being confident in your vision, because most people would have told you, no, you're going to have to do it this way, or you're going to have to do it that way. I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, I'll share a funny lesson about that. Because I remember this story and this day when I was a kid. You know, I'm in North Dakota right now, but I grew up here, and it was February and it was cold and we were kids and we were complaining like there's nothing to do and we're so bored. And my dad was like, oh my God, go get your swimsuits. And we're like, our swimsuits? You know, we get in the car and my dad pulls up to a hotel and I'm like, are we getting a room here? You know, really excited. We didn't have a ton of money. Like that would have been a huge surprise. And my dad's like, no, just walk in and ask where the pool is. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like, that's what we did. And we swam all day. And that lesson is, if you do something with enough conviction and confidence, people don't ask questions. You walk in like you own the place and people don't ask questions. So like, that's how I choose to operate sometimes. And I know when to ask my team for whether it's permission or their buy-in. And I also know when to charge forward and walk in like I own the place and people don't question you. So that was kind of the thing with the showers. It's like, no, we don't have showers. Of course not. And it's, you don't get into a debate around it with somebody. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's again just one of the very many things I love about you is that, you know, but you're also you're your own person. And you know, I've walked into some very large corporate meetings with you in your crop top and tattoos showing with, you know, there you go, exactly. And you know, just 100% you know, because quite honestly, if you're going to look for investors or partners or whatever it is, and they want to change you, or they don't see the vision, or they don't align, you don't want to be with them. I mean, which is great. And again, that's a confidence thing. You know, a lot of people choose the wrong partners because they feel like it's their only option.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, our partners, Peterson, they're Mormons, and I couldn't be further from Mormon. I'm not married. I don't have children. I have tattoos. I like tequila. And that was like one of our first conversations, but it was like this acceptance of who each other were and appreciating and adoring that. And like, there was no fakeness. No one was trying to be someone that they're not. And we've had an amazing partnership the last 3 years.
Absolutely. So you know what, I want to open it up a little bit because I have the benefit of talking to Anne more than the rest of you guys. So give me a hand raise if anyone wants me to unmute them. Krysta, I know that you wanted to. I'm going to unmute you. Hang on one sec.
Be safe. You're driving. I can see you.
Pull over.
No, I'm driving, so I'm not going to look at you. And I'm very late to a meeting because I'm on my way to record a video for a workout that was supposed to happen like an hour ago. So I just wanted to first of all say that I'm like a huge fangirl of SOLIDCORE. I had the pleasure of meeting Jay through a connection that I have in Charlotte, in North Carolina, and I think you should come to this market or something, just putting it out there because you would crush. I'm only 26, and so I have a big vision and a big idea, and right now I'm in the process of taking on potential partners and, you know, vetting them through people like Jayson and David and getting their expertise and advice from having worked with people like you. But I'm getting this pushback of like, oh, you're only 26. You can't know much about finance. Your risk appetite is way too big. You're trying to do too much too fast. And so like, how do you deal with that? Like, I think yours might not necessarily be age, but like your look and your vibe might be different than a typical person. So like, what do you say to someone like myself who feels like they're sitting across the table from someone who's not taking me seriously just because of how old I am, regardless of the life experience that I've had?
Well, for one, I think you're probably at the wrong table if that's happening, and you don't need to put up with that. But the like, yeah, the other piece of that is I can tell you my naivete with back on my feet and SOLIDCORE of having no idea how hard and what I was up against worked so much in my favor. If I would have known, I probably wouldn't have done it. Right. So it is this.
Yeah, and that's different because I do know how hard it is to operate a gym because I've done it 3 times. And
right, but your passion and your hunger for the desire to want to do it is more so than the challenge or the difficulty ahead. And it does make a massive difference. It's why there's a lot of PE firms out there who don't invest in like 2 or 3rd time entrepreneurs, because there's this misnomer, or sometimes it's true, that they've lost their hustle. Like if they made it big and sold their company for whatever, like I do some investing as well. And I love 1st time entrepreneurs because they're out to prove something to the world. They will outwork everybody. And like, they are so committed to making their idea work, and they can be super convincing, and they frankly have so much on the line for it. So yeah, I love 1st time entrepreneurs. And when anybody tells you that, again, you should use it as a strength and be like, you should be thrilled that I think this way, that I'm thinking big and not doubting myself.
And my risk appetite is huge. Like for my age, I'm just like, I've had 3 different jobs in 3 years. I recently tried to go back into corporate America. I was told I wasn't trainable. I wasn't coachable. I was a liability because I liked fitness too much to actually sit at a desk. Like any type of rejection, like I've already heard it. And I feel like that's going to help me when I'm going through seed money rounds and things like that for sure. But at the same time too, it's just kind of like, okay, I was probably meant to get that feedback because it was what pushed me to embrace the fact that I was depressed and couldn't admit it. Embrace the fact that I was in the wrong relationship because my partner couldn't help me with that. And then ultimately like put me in the position that I am today, where my fitness goal of my concept is to marry meditation, mindfulness, and all that sort of thing that you can only find from yoga with a strength workout. Like who says you can't do CrossFit and end the class with a 5-minute meditation after you just fucking deadlifted like 250 pounds? Why not? It's just because no one's doing it. And if we don't teach people how to do it, they can be the fittest person in the world, but like, what does it look like up here? That's a big problem. And that's something that I want to tap into because I was embarrassed to tell people my story. And I think that's so lame. And like, I want other people to feel like it's okay. And I think the only other question I would ask is like, because I am kind of a 1-woman show right now, like I'm in Charlotte, I've been here for the past week. I've recorded like 7 podcast episodes, 2 alone today. And like, I can tell you that I've had to restart the 30-day challenge for Kids like 3 times because I keep skipping my workouts. And that would be the last thing that I would have thought would have been hard for all the criteria of the challenge. So now that you're at where you're at, maybe this isn't as relevant, but you made the comment you were teaching 20 classes a week. How did you fit in time to still get your own workout in when you were the one who was the ops manager, the marketing manager, the CEO, and also mopping the floor?
Krysta, I'm going to let Anne answer that one, and then we're going to move on so other people.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Yeah, Krysta, no problem. I mean, listen, I was coaching at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I would go home and take a nap for 90 minutes. I would then do, 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, the other work stuff, and then go back to the studio. And just like anything else, you fit it in when you can, right? You got to make a choice and priorities of, am I going to sleep an hour less tonight or get my workout in? And you got to figure out what fuels you more. Do you need an hour of downtime? Do you need to sweat? Do you need to be working? And it's just, it's push and pull, and it's not going to look the same every day when you're in the state that you're in.
For sure. Great feedback. So Anne was asking me about the state of New York City and the current rent, what landlords are talking about with regard to rent, where we are right now in the pandemic. I'd love, since you are my favorite and the most experienced New York City guy on this call, can you talk to us about that? Anne, Corey, Anne?
Hi, Anne. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for your time today. Hey, so in New York City, I'll assume you're talking about Manhattan.
Manhattan, yeah, specifically.
Okay. So firstly, what I've been running with lately is that there's an invisible fence around Midtown Manhattan, north, south, east, and west. There's an invisible fence. Depending on whose stats you read, there's about 10 to 15% of the workforce that's showing up, and there's 0% of tourists showing up. So everything that's going on in Manhattan at this point in time is really in the periphery surrounding Midtown. That said, what I have been seeing with various proposals that I have out or have come my way, proposals are coming in the vicinity of 55, 60, 65% of asking rents. And what the conversations have been with most of the landlords externally, or the ones that I am involved with, have really been focused on how do we help the tenant in the first couple of years, because there's certainly no quick fix here. This is going to go on for quite a while. So if you're a solid, no pun intended, tenant, you're going to get opportunities with the landlords. It's a great day to be a tenant if you're out there and you're ready to grow. So I think that it is quite opportunistic, and most of the landlords see it that way. Not all, of course, and there are always certain pockets, but I think broadly speaking, there are some opportunity. There are not more than some. There's a lot of opportunities. What we're seeing mostly is everybody wants second generation restaurants so they can come in and try a new concept. They don't have to spend the money to build out kitchens and things like that. From a dry use perspective, quite frankly, I haven't had a peep of anybody from a fitness related perspective because of the problems in that industry currently as it relates to the virus. We're seeing other uses. I got a proposal the other day from Diamond Braces, which is a dental company that does braces, and they want street level because they have money behind them and they see opportunity in terms of the rent values. Yeah. So it really depends where you're sitting in this equation.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of, our plan is to grow next year. We actually have 2 studios under construction, one in Boston and one in Milwaukee. And never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Right.
And I am more confident in our business today than I even was before the pandemic. The whole reason we are in this mess again is because people want to be social. They don't want to stay at home. They don't want to be sitting there, regardless of if there's a pandemic going on. They're taking these calculated risks, and we've seen our business continue to grow up and to the right. It's gradual, but it's growing, and people are craving and wanting to get back. So I've got a lot of confidence in consumer-facing businesses, and frankly, health and fitness in particular, especially after this. If people are having a reckoning of saying, I gotta make my health and fitness more of a priority than it has before. So I remain super optimistic about the future of real estate. And I think that you're totally right. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and it's having the right expectations for the landlord and the tenant that, like, we're not signing 2-year deals. We're signing 10-year deals or 12-year deals or whatever. And we're going to need a little help in the beginning. But we're going to make it through if we work together. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. And the one thing, and Jayson is your advisor and he knows what he's doing. But what I have seen, in response from landlords in terms of trying to cooperate with the tenants that are out there is they want the tenants to understand something as well. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're going to help you out in year 1 and year 2, but we can't live with that discount for the whole 10 or 12 years, because to them, it's a 12-year discount and the world will turn. So if everybody comes in with the right mindset, especially out of the gate, then I think that there's, a possibility for tenants and landlords to, be on the same page from minute one.
Right. Yeah. And maybe, Jay, I don't know what you want to end on, but I want to say something about fitness to everybody on the call, because that's what your challenge is.
Yes, please.
But, and it speaks to I'm not even going to make a plug for SOLIDCORE, but if you are trying to change your body, Jay, you have full permission to share old photos of me, but I was a cardio junkie and I was about 25 pounds, heavier than I am today. And I was watching what I eat, restricting my calories. And you have to do resistance training. Resistance training, when you need to do it to the point where you are ripping your muscle fibers, your your fast twitch and your slow twitch. I can go into that too later about what you're focusing on, what the results of your body's going to look like. But when you rip your muscle fibers, you're causing this micro trauma in your body, and your body goes into repair mode. And what happens when you're going to repair mode is your body then gets in higher metabolism. You're strengthening the muscles because it knows that you're probably going to do that again to it. So that's where you see toning and definition and muscle build, and you're creating a fat burning machine of your body. All cardio does, and it's great for your heart. So I'm not saying don't do cardio, but all cardio does is you burn calories when you're in the moment, and then that's it. You didn't challenge your muscle fibers and your muscles enough to actually cause the trauma. And so when your cardio session is over, your body stops working, and it's the exact opposite when you're doing resistance training.
Yeah, that's amazing information, obviously, for everybody to apply. Jack, I'm going to unmute you here. So that hand go up. Yep. Sorry, I just hit it.
There we go. Okay, cool. If we don't have time, that's totally cool. I had
No,
a short.
go ahead.
All right, quick. Favorite tequila? Just out of curiosity.
Casamigos Silver.
Okay, nice. One of the many jobs that I've had was I was an SA at Orange Theory. So, and I worked front desk at lots of different things. I really respect that you do that job. Do you believe that like, I feel that that's like the crux of everything. It's like the front face of any business. So I could do it in my commercial real estate office. I could be in a fitness boutique. How do you create a consistent atmosphere at that position? Because typically it's an hourly position. What are your strategies of motivating that? Because that really is the interface with a customer.
I'm sorry.
And kind of retains your.
You were what at Orange Theory, Todd? You were front desk, Jack, or
SA? Yeah, sales associate.
Sales associate. Got it. We don't have a sales team at SOLIDCORE, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a sales team. Listen, everybody plays into the SOLIDCORE ecosystem. And if we're all doing our part, it all works together. Our coaches are, of course, on the front lines of our community. And we do a lot of following up with like the marketing and the sales from a corporate perspective, but we don't have a dedicated sales team, even at corporate, or so in the studio, actually. Like, I know that sounds a little bit nuts. It's just not the way that we've ever sort of done things. We follow up and we're asking how you're feeling, how your workout was. We're definitely letting them know about the packages that are there, but we take more of a, if we build an amazing community and we know the results and the workout is like really effective, people will make those decisions, to buy and purchase. But our coaches, people in the studios, are the front lines for the interaction with our clients.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. And I don't want to keep you. I appreciate you taking the time as always.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's a fun conversation.
For sure. Thank you so much. And I appreciate obviously all the inspiration and the positive change you've had on me. And I'm sure that these guys, just by following along with you on social, and I encourage you all to do that, will also benefit from that as well. So thank you so much, Anne.
Thanks, Jay. Talk soon. Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
'Cause this is digital discussions.